My name's Nancy Burkhalter. I'm a real alcoholic. It's going to be hard to tell, but I am from Texas. Because of a loving God, the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, people just like you. I've been sober since November the 7th, 1981, and I'm truly grateful for that sobriety today. Thank you. I love to hear the applause after a sobriety date because I know what we're applauding. 71 years of Alcoholics Anonymous this June. 71 years of a program that I feel in this room right this second that gave somebody like me the hope to find a power bigger than me so that I could discover the problem and get to you so that I could solve the problem. And thank you for that. I want to thank all kinds of folks. I want to thank Amy. Anybody that tries to get a hold of me, I first want to thank you for your patience. They're very diligent. Thank you, Amy and Paula, Judy. I could go on and on. The committee, as many of the speakers have said, I actually know a little bit, and I want you to hear that, a little bit about what it takes to put on something like this, and I am in awe, and I'm appreciative. And I want you to know that because of strong sponsorship, that I know to my heart that my little part right here is just that the people who came early and set up these chairs and decorated these flowers and did all the things. You're glad I didn't make the coffee, for example. Whatever the little parts that were done, I want you to know that I know that my part isn't any more significant than that. It's just my turn right here, and thank you for that. So, and I'm glad that I don't really know how to thank you adequately. I did when I got here, but I don't know how to say thank you enough for that. For example, how do I say thank you to that long-timer panel? Those people who keep coming here so that I keep knowing which way to go. I need for you to keep coming back and being the example that you are. And I can't imagine ever missing that meeting. So I'm appreciative of that. I got to tell you, I want to thank my friend Ventura, who's an Al-Anon forever. And because she came to get us from the airport. And it's not that I don't trust an alcoholic to pick me up at the airport. It's not that. But we get distracted easily, And I've been sitting at the airport one time, and the alcoholic was supposed to pick me up, but there was a football game on as he was walking towards the gate to pick me up, and kind of got distracted. So, but they're trackers. They can find us whether we want to be found or not. So I knew all I had to do is get my bag to the curb and sort of look alcoholic. And sure enough, her car pulled up. Now, she's been in Al-Anon long enough, she made me put my own bags in the car, but yeah. I'm a little sore today, but that's all right. I can overcome. But I knew Friday night that it was a good decision because, I think about, we've been accused of being a little self-centered alcoholics, and I didn't, sometimes I lose sight of that, but when you all got up to do the golf thing, I can't believe this, but they got up to do the golf awards, and I started to prepare my acceptance speech. Then I remembered I didn't play in the golf tournament. It took me a minute because I thought if they're going to give out awards, surely I will get one. I'm a legend in my own mind. But thank you. It is a privilege to be a part of any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, as you're going to hear, I didn't bring that attitude with me in November of 1981, but I actually can remember the first time my sponsor started saying things like, well, I don't just say thank you. Just say thank you. If they ask you to, pick up the cups, if they ask you to clean the ashtrays or whatever, just say thank you. And I want to show you my response. What? Because I had fear before I got to you that you wouldn't know who I was. And when I got to you, my greatest fear came true. You didn't realize who I was. And I couldn't believe that there were certain jobs that I would ever have to do. Not a person like me. I mean, and you know what? Some of you in the room remember that desperation. Don't you know who I am? Please tell me you do. Because I don't. And I'm kind of hoping to get some of that from you. But I couldn't act that way. So, boy, I'm going to get to tell you all about that. But the truth is that what a privilege it is to be in this room and to do anything for Alcoholics Anonymous. There would never be enough time. And I'm reminded, too, as I look down on this front row and again in that morning meeting, as my friend says, I stand on the shoulders of giants in Alcoholics Anonymous. I stand on their shoulders, and I am humbled to stand before you, to get to just tell you a little bit about how it was and what happened and how it is today for me. I actually have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is I can see my watch. The bad news is I'm a college professor and time means absolutely nothing to me. So my friend over here said, just take your time, precious. You know, from Texas, we talk a little slow. And, okay, I'm kidding. I have a flight at 4:50. We'll be out of here before then. So what happened? How did a person like me get here? I can remember literally, I've got to tell you just a brief story about growing up in alcoholism because, we know about alcoholism today. The talk of alcoholism is out there. We have talk shows. I just realized it about a week ago. There are reality shows now about getting people into treatment. Now, I'm not going to get into an outside issue, I promise. But it's just one of those things where we talk about alcoholism and drug addiction today. Well, I got to tell you, when I was born, we didn't talk a lot about alcoholism. I did not know, for example, that I was the baby born thinking that maybe things would get better at home. Maybe my dad would come home more. I know I'm not saying that's unique in any way or that it might not be happening today, but the truth is that how could I have known that? And that when my earliest memory in my home was tense and that there was a lot of activity going on that I didn't understand and I certainly couldn't control and didn't know a lot about it. But I can remember walking, I was about 10 years old, therefore I was already sort of brilliant, and actually that part's true, and you'll see, but anyway, but my mother has my father's head in her hands, and she's doing something like this. Now, Ray, I want you to go to work, and then I want you to come home. Go to work, and then come home. I still don't know why she had to yank his head around, okay? Remember, you heard from Ellen if you were there. She wasn't an Al-Anon, she was an alligator, okay? That's somebody who really needs to go to Al-Anon. Okay, but she's doing this, and I want you to know that it's kind of funny today, but I remember my total affect I went, oh my gosh, my father is retarded. And this is not good news for somebody who's at 10 brilliant. And I knew that I was going to be somebody someday. And it's not going to look good to have, this retarded father. And I'm wondering where I'm headed. Because, I am concerned about that. But then I thought about it real quickly. I got to go fast. But, I thought, why is she doing this? Until I realized that he didn't have trouble doing the going to work part. But coming home was really kind of a challenge for this boy. But that doesn't get an alligator down. Every day she'd come in and she'd start cooking dinner because at 5 o'clock, I don't know about it in California, but 5 o'clock, you're going to sit down for that lovely dinner as a family. And you're going to ask each other how your day was. I still get a little tense, but that's what families do. And so she'd begin to cook that dinner and she'd watch the clock and, now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. He didn't come home yesterday, but we think he's going to come home today. It's called alcoholism. It's called alcoholism because that clock would tick tick. But when it got to be 5 o'clock, she was not happy. But an alligator goes into plan B. I mean, we're not done yet. It's not like we're going to sit down and eat without him. No. She goes to the phone and she calls all the numbers that are by the phone, which, by the way, are every beer joint in Pasadena, Texas. Because we're going to find out where he is, right? So she dials the numbers. Ray Burkhalter there? No. Is he there? No. Is he there? No. Now we know where he isn't. So she says, get in the car. We're going to go get him where he isn't. Now, I'm a brilliant 10-year-old, and I'm going, okay. But let me tell you, remember what I told you? We'd find him the first time, most of the time. We could go right there to that joint where his truck was parked in the back where it became invisible. I understand that completely today. I'm not putting that down. Parked back by the dumpster and goes away. But we do that, and then you send the children in. You say, go tell your daddy to come home. You tell him to come on. And Texas would say, come on. And I'd say, I don't really, okay. So I'd go in and I'd go in that smoky bar and I'd look at my daddy and I'd say, Daddy, Mother really wants you to come on. And he would, you know, you never knew. What, did he come that time? Did he say, Nancy, going back, tell your mother going home. Y'all going home. And that was never the right answer. And so she'd send my brother in or both of us in. Guess what? It's funny today. Somebody said it. Somebody said it already this weekend. We've had great speakers here. Somebody said it. I can laugh today because you helped me heal from that. You made it a funny story for me. Thank you for that. But the truth is that I didn't want to go in. I didn't want to get him. I really wanted to leave him there. But let me tell you how I know it's about alcoholism. 2 things. When we got outside, my mother would say to one or both of us, I want you to ride home with your daddy. Now, she had no idea whether my daddy had had 1 drink, 5 drinks, whatever. But what did she know? She knew he would come home and we could have that lovely dinner. She needed for him to do that. And that's called alcoholism. She wouldn't put me in harm's way for anything. But she knew he would come home. And you know what the other thing I know is it's alcoholism? Is because alcoholism doesn't leave anybody out. It doesn't leave out the children. It doesn't leave out anybody. Whether you get to choose or whether you do not get to choose. So now we're coming home for that nice dinner, and I would usually blow it and look over at my daddy and say, you know, Daddy, and whoop, the alligator eyes would come across that table and say, don't you talk to him. And I thought, okay, I got it. We find out where he isn't, go get him where he's not, bring him home so we can not talk to him. I can't wait to have a family. It's working out really well. I mean, that's all I know. And you know, I don't know if I did that every day. I used to love to exaggerate. I don't want to exaggerate. But you know what? I did it more days than I wanted to. I don't want to play. I don't want to do it anymore. And guess what else I know because of you? Is that I humiliated my father one day at a time by walking in that bar and telling him to come home. But then one day, remember, I'm brilliant. And I got my mother aside and I said, Mama, why do we do that? We don't even like him. And why don't we just do, just change of pace? You cook the dinner and we actually sit down and eat it while it's hot. Leave him over there. Now, I'm being silly, but I was pretty serious. And here's what I want you to hear. Makes it so important to my story. She looked at me with the seriousness and sincerity, as though she were teaching me honesty is the best policy, something that a parent would want to give as a principle of life to their child. And she said to me, if we don't go get him, 1, he will not know that we're angry with him. 2, he will not know that he's being punished. And I was like, whoa. She said, drinking is bad. Drinking is bad. And people who drink are very bad. And they should be punished. It's called alcoholism. To think that some action, some idea. Who was it that said, we're not laughing at you because of your problems. We're laughing at you at your solutions when we first come here. Absolutely. The solution really seemed to be that if we punished him enough, if we were angry enough, he would go to work and he would come home and we could sit down for that nice dinner. And I know the desperation of that thought today. I didn't understand it then. I did not understand it. But one day at a time we did that. Well, guess what I did? I took it on. Now, one of our long-timers talked about drinking, starting to drink at 10 and got sober at 16. Is that amazing? Is that amazing? Well, I'm not gonna drink. I mean, I'm way too smart for that. I see what happens when you drink, and you're so pathetic. Because unfortunately, my mom said that drinkers were bad and should be punished. I put a lot of other terms on that situation for many, many, many years until I got to you. I treated my parents like second-class citizens. See, I already know I'm the smartest person I know, and I better get out of there and make it. Not look back. And I'm beginning to treat them that way, one day at a time. Treat them that way and treat them that way. And I'm going to get out of there and I'm going to become rich and famous and I'll never need them again. Ever, ever, ever. And so, of course, I'm not going to drink. That's pathetic. And besides, I'm an educated woman. I'm about to go to college and I'm going to succeed and I'm not going to look back. Well, guess what? So I go to college, where a lot of people, I don't know about anybody in this room, but a lot of people seem to think it is appropriate actually to go to parties and go out and hear live music and drink. Well, thank goodness I got there in time. Because, see, I know that drinking's bad. People who drink are really bad and should be punished. So for literally 4 years, I don't have time to tell you a lot about it, but you're really glad you were not there. Because I started monitoring everybody's drinking. Everybody that I knew. I was a college athlete and there would be a little group of us and we'd maybe go to a concert or something. And I'm in the car and I'm saying, now how many of are y'all going to drink tonight? Can I hear 2? And I'm serious. I mean, I'm as serious as a heart attack. And I'm thinking I've really got some control going on here because I know that drinking's bad. Well, they'd get away from me. We'd get somewhere and they'd just get away from me. It was horrible. It was horrible. Oh, not only did they drink more than 2, some of them went home with people they did not know. It was horrible. It was a horrible situation. But I did the best I could. I want you to know I did the best I could to kind of round these drinkers up, keep them under control so I could, in fact, save them from that pathetic life of a drinker. Now, it's a funny story today, but I don't even have to make this stuff up. I mean, this is exactly how I treated people now for 4 years in college. Am I drinking? Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm in college now, and I'm becoming quite educated, much more than anyone else there, I'm sure. Now, do you hear what I'm saying? Do you realize, I've just appreciated so the other speakers talking about that low self-esteem and that beaten down effect that alcoholism produces. And believe me, I believe it. I believe the literature describes us perfectly. You know, we're this it's low self-esteem, yet we're egomaniacs. Well, guess what? That's absolutely true. But I'm telling you that this alcoholic in training, I didn't know that. I started just developing this incredible arrogance about myself as early as possible. No, see, I gotta believe that I'm smarter, richer, taller, whatever. I've got to. See, I know I'm not enough. If I would have been enough, my daddy would have come home. We wouldn't have had, nobody told me that. But my dad would have come home. And so I've got to believe that I'm just all that in a bag of chips. I got to. Or I can't even sit in the same room with you. I have to believe that today. So I'm already sort of getting that arrogance thing going. And it worked really well as long as I was outside the door of my apartment. Remember that time, you know, when you lock the door and you're the only one inside? I wanted to like her. Oh, I wanted to love her. But I didn't. I'm never going to be enough. But the minute I walked outside my door, I haven't taken a drink yet. I'm still, I'm bulletproof. Because I've got to convince you that I'm just fine and all is well. And I'll take charge of all this dysfunction that is around me. I can do that. I can do that. And I'm also, of course, remember I told you I went to college and graduated. So I moved to Houston, Texas. And I think people are going to move so I can teach their children. Right? I'm going to, by the way, remember I'm going to be rich and famous? Okay, I majored in education. My only slip. Okay. But don't you think people are going to move so that I can, really, I'm going to change the course of education in America. Or Texas, which is kind of the same. I'll drink to that. Oh. So anyway, I got to believe that. But I'm going to work every day, and things are going pretty well. I'm making money. Oh, and by the way, I don't need those parents. Thank goodness I escaped that. I didn't look back. I realize that the only time I go to their house or include them in my life in any way is when it results in them handing me the keys to a new car. Or I get a deposit slip in the mail because my mother sent money. But, don't forget that they owe me. Don't forget that they owe me. They have ruined my whole life. Don't ever forget that. And boy, I tell you what, I wore that like an extra piece of clothing. And I treated them that way day in and day out. I don't ever want to forget to say that out loud. So now, man, I'm going. I've arrived. I'm educated. I'm quite sophisticated as well and brilliant. I'm still the smartest person I know. Well, guess what? Remember those people I punished for 4 years? One day, if you can believe it, I got a knock on my door. And there they were, standing at my apartment door, because they had found out that there'd been all these parties. Every day there were parties down by the pool, and people were drinking and carrying on. I didn't know I'd already turned them in. But anyway, the thing is that they're saying, let's party. And this is why it's so significant that I told you that part of my story. I said, let's party. Let's party. Now, their heads went all the way around because I really have not had time to tell you all the things that I really did to punish them, okay? It was not pretty. But here's the thing. You know why I don't ever want to forget that? Because if I'm not following these people and doing exactly what they're doing today and telling me to do, in that split second of time this afternoon, I could say, let's party. If I'm not following in the footsteps of those people who walk before me, who, by the way, are telling me to do the same things that you told me in my first week of sobriety, if I'm not doing those things so that I can get closer to God, I might say, let's party. But because in that one instant of time, do you realize that everything I believe in from my earliest memory of life is drinking is bad? And people who drink are very bad. And I added pathetic, unsophisticated, uneducated, and they should be treated like second-class citizens. And I said, let's party. Well, now, I said, what are we going to drink? I'd never had a drink. They said, well, we're going to have screwdrivers. And I went, what's a screwdriver? Got real tight with screwdrivers very soon after that. But the truth is that I don't even know what we're going to drink. First time I'm going to drink, they go get the ingredients. They go get the liquor and the orange juice or whatever. And I get out every large container in my apartment. It's the first time I'm going to drink. I said, well, if we're going to drink, we're going to drink. And we go down by the pool, and I'm kind of still watching because I hadn't really completely given up that position in life. Because see, what I know is that I'm not going to drink irresponsibly like those people. I have a college degree. Okay? I'm teaching the youth of America. Okay? So we begin to drink. And we drink. And we drink. And the same ones that passed out and went home with people they did not know did that same thing. But not me. I want you to know. Not me. I can remember literally. It's interesting that you can remember that first time. I'm not sure how many social drinkers do, but I can remember stepping across some of those people, walking up my own stairs to my own apartment, taking off my own clothes, getting ready to get in my own bed, looking into my own mirror, and I said, I even drink better than other people. What was I thinking? My father is pathetic. He's uneducated. He's unsophisticated. He can't even find his way home after work, for goodness sake. See, I don't know about alcoholism. I don't know that when my dad stopped by to have a beer after work, that's exactly what he intended to do. I didn't know that when he opened one beer and he drank that beer, he had to have another beer. I did not know that. But what I did know is that I'd competed with alcohol my whole life. If you grew up in alcoholism, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're competing with alcohol. And now I have fed the alcoholic alcohol. It's just my story. And I believe my very first thought is, how silly. It's not drinking that's bad. It's not drinking that's bad. It's just that some people shouldn't drink. People who are like my father should not drink. And I began to drink. And I began to drink. And I got to tell you, I was a little tense up until then, as you might imagine. On more than one occasion, it may have been said that I was a little intense, okay? Particularly in my manic, punishing ways, periods of life, when I was punishing you for being irresponsible, okay? But here's my deal. Now I know that it wasn't the drinking, so I'm okay there. I realized that I was a lot easier to be around when I drank. A lot easier to be around. In fact, I got to where I didn't really care how much you drank once I started to drink. But I wasn't going to ever do those kinds of things that people like my dad did. I, of course, would never drink or drive. I can remember going to church as a child. And I went to the kind of church that talked a lot about not drinking. Well, actually, it talked about not doing much of anything. Actually, it talked about don't even think about doing a bunch of anything, okay? And I knew I had already blown that theory, okay? But the truth is that I had gone enough times. It truly was kind of a drive-by situation. It wasn't necessarily that I really wanted to be there. Where I wanted to be was not at home. But doesn't that prove the majesty of a God? Because here I am all these years later, having just given up everything I believe to take a drink. And I'm thinking about, I wonder what God thinks about this. I'm going to have to walk away from that because how could I ever reconcile that I was willing to give up everything I believe for that drink? And then to believe that, well, I'm just different. I'm never going to do it like my dad. I love this. I heard myself say this one time, which was, alcoholics tell these great stories, and then we're first in line to, buy them, the story. That sounded like a good story. I believe it too. We're the only one there. Truly the only one in the room. Well, I had bought that. I had absolutely bought that. My drinking's different and I'll never do this and all of those things because I'm still desperate to believe that I am smarter than. I'd already gone back, by the way, and gotten another degree. I had my master's degree by this time, by the way, in 9 months, made all A's. If you want to write that down. I remember thinking maybe I'd be walking through a mall someday and somebody go, "Oh my God, is it you?" I don't know. Okay. Hasn't happened. But anyway, so see, I'm getting smarter and smarter. I've added alcohol. I'm not as nearly as concerned about what you're drinking, except when you did things that were irresponsible. I could not believe still, after taking my first drink, I cannot believe that we're at the party and you're drinking as much as you're drinking, knowing you've got to drive home. I cannot believe it. Cannot believe it. Because I'm not going to do that. I cannot believe that anybody would ever say out loud, well, some mornings I just got to have something by the bed so I can get up. I thought, holy, I just cannot imagine that. I can't imagine how sad that must be to get to that place in your life. And I want you to know that I depended on every one of those rules. I depended on them. Do you hear? I depended on them. As long as I wasn't doing those things, I certainly couldn't be like my father. And I was a very sophisticated drinker for a while. For a while. Somebody said, this morning, when you go from the really pretty glass to something else to the bottle doesn't look that bad, it's a pretty bottle. The bottle's got prettier as you were just hiking the bottle up. So here's what, but I'm not breaking any of the rules. And I didn't right up until I did. Right up until I did. I held out and I didn't do it. I'm not about to do that. But I don't want you to think I'm just somebody like my dad. Let me tell you the first time I drank and drove. I'm going to tell you, because I can't wait to get to the good news. I just realized I got to say this. Hope the train won't leave. But it's like, we have so many new people in this room. How do we adequately welcome you to the greatest miracle of the 20th century? Not just a miracle, what will go down as the greatest miracle of the 20th century. So welcome. Okay. So I'm not going to break any of these rules, but I'll never forget that I was, has anybody else in the room, prior to AA, actually sort of become what you do? Is there just anybody else in the room? It's just like that just totally defines you. I know it's unusual, but totally defines you. Well, that's what had happened to me. I was a public school teacher at the time, and as you know, quite educated, and I was a coach. And so now, that's what I am. That's who I am. And I'm in this championship game. I want you to go there with me. And I'm in this championship game, and we're picked to win. And it's in the last seconds of the game, and we lose. If you need tissue, it's right up here, because I'm telling you, all of a sudden, I'm a total failure. I'm going to probably get fired. On that Monday morning. The Olympic Committee probably will never call. Well, I need one. So I am, okay, it was an 8th grade basketball game. Yeah. At the time, it seemed bigger. You know what I'm saying? Of course it did. It was my basketball game. And we lost. Now, that's funny today, but it wasn't very funny, because now I said I'd go out to dinner, so of course I've got to meet that commitment. And I'm go out to dinner, and I don't feel like eating. And I need to take a drink, and I need to smooth things out. I'm devastated. And then I had to take that second drink because I took the first drink. And I didn't mean to, because, I'm driving tonight. And I kept thinking, whoa, man, I don't know if this is a good idea. And then I had a better solution. I took another drink. And I'll never forget getting in my car going, man, I had no intention of ever doing this. And we're out on that freeway. I remember it's called Mopac in Austin, Texas. And I'm going along, and I'm going, whoa, I think they've added some lines, maybe some rookies out here needing more lines than we usually do. But guess what? It wasn't so hard to do that the second time. Because you know what my brain said? I'm not looking in the mirror this time. I'm looking straight ahead and going, I think I drive pretty good after I understand a lot of people have trouble with this. I'm doing all right. I think I'm doing all right. So it wasn't hard the next time, and it wasn't hard. But I didn't mean to do that. And you know what? It is funny, except you remember, hopefully, with me, how that feels the next morning when you go, oh, wow, I really can't believe I did that. And the story's not even working. That story that made sense the night before, it's not working too well the next morning. Well, I don't want to forget that. I'm so grateful for the steps, because, that I might get that 6 minutes of wanting to get back at somebody or do something that's totally inappropriate. But you know what? Because of good sponsorship, 6 minutes, 0.5 seconds, I don't feel good anymore. And that's all your fault. That is truly your fault. Because now that's even happening to me and I can't get to you. I'm not to you yet. And I don't like me very much. And I'm going, and I want you to hear that I punished me. That's okay. People who drink are bad and they should be punished. And I'll never forget the morning. I don't know which felt worse. When I realized I woke up that morning and when I needed to go to work, I'm teaching at a public school and I needed to get to work and I didn't know if I could get out of bed without a drink. I didn't mean for that to ever happen. And I looked over and I don't know, like I said, which felt worse. That I needed the drink or that it was sitting on the table. It was waiting for me. It was right there. And I took that first morning drink. I remember saying things like, I gotta have a story. Well, it did have orange juice in it. I bought that for a long time. As long as what I keep by the bed has orange juice in it. Now I've broken another rule and I didn't mean to. I don't like who's home. Oh, I don't like who's home. And I'm not avoiding talking about like other people. There aren't any. Maybe alcoholism taught you how to be a friend among friends or a daughter or a spouse or a neighbor. I don't know how. And that's okay because I'm going to make it on my own. I don't want to go find you where you're not. I don't want to bring you home and not talk to you. And that's all I know. And I'm going to be just fine by myself. Thank you very much. And by the way, I'm not hurting anybody because even though I broke some rules, it's okay because I'm drinking in the privacy of my own home. I'm not hurting anybody. And I bought that ticket for a long time. And nobody in the state of California, actually in the United States, is more excited than me that I finally broke all the rules. Nobody. And I'll tell you why. I have no idea where I am. I mean, this Westlake, California, which is kind of like a flashback. But I know that I depended on somebody to bring me wherever I am. But I'm somewhere in California, and I'm sure there's a neighborhood close. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay? It's all so pretty here. But let me tell you something. We could take some of these gentlemen out to this parking lot and say, I want you to just hit a golf ball. I want you to throw a rock. I want you to do something. And I want you to know that we could hit a house today where somebody's taking a drink and they said they weren't going to drink today. They said under no circumstances, I am not going to drink today. You know what? I promise you, I will not drink. It's right here in wherever we are. Guess what? There is somebody, man or woman, who's going, I don't know if I can stay today. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know. And here's what I promise you. There is some child in a closet wondering when it's safe to come out. That's the truth. We know that. Alcoholism is alive and well. It's alive and well. And that is going on right here. But they're in their own home. And I'm so glad that all of a sudden, even somebody like me, whose arrogance, hear that, is off the charts. I can't be like you. Are you kidding me? I'm driving another new car. I'm living in a beautiful new home. I'm teaching children and changing the course of education. I'm doing all these things. I am desperate for you to know that. And I don't like who locks the door every night at home. But I'm desperate. But I broke the rules. And I'll never forget being outside the place of somebody's employment one Saturday morning and I hadn't had a drink. I need to say that out loud. I hadn't had a drink and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs to tell them that one last thing. Have you ever tried to tell somebody that one last thing that they need to hear and then they're going to go, oh yeah, precious, I got that now. Let's go on. It sounded pretty reasonable that day. But I am screaming and somebody comes out and before getting arrested, as you know, in this town, puts me in the car and says, you've got a problem with alcohol and there's a solution. Now, honest. I know this is going to look silly, but I started to look around in the car. Because here's what I want you to hear. Remember how brilliant I am and how educated, by the way? I'm like, who are you talking to? I don't have a clue that I'm in trouble. There were people standing up. You blew my mind. We got people here with 3 days, 4 days. You'd had to tell me we were going to a party. I mean, just go ahead and lie to me, because I'm telling you, I cannot imagine. I bet there are people who walked in here today that said, I'm done. I am in trouble. Because there is a God who knocks on that door one day at a time every day. But I let arrogance muffle the knock. I would not pay attention to the knock. I knew it was there. But some of you probably knew. Now I'm going, what? But then she said, and by the way, I want to take you today where we can find out where there's a meeting. And I'll meet you there. I'll drive you there. I'll not go. You can not go. And I went, oh, okay, I'll meet you there. Because, I got to prove her wrong. And I went home and I thought, whoa, I told this person I'd go to what did she call it? Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So I did a couple of things that any respectable alcoholic would do. First thing is I thought, I bet they don't drink. Pretty sharp. So I got to start preparing for not drinking the next day. Okay? Second thing I did, looked in my closet to make sure I had something right from the cleaners. Because I know what you're going to look like. That would be not what I'm going to look like. I need to look as educated and sophisticated as I am. So I got there early, interviews and stuff you always do. And I get to that little AA meeting on North Lamar in Austin, Texas. I'm going to speed this up because let me tell you something. 2 things that you're grateful for. You're grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous that can help somebody even like me who's so arrogant and so judgmental and so self-centered. And you are so grateful you were not there. Okay? Little bitty meeting. And here's what I'm doing in my first meeting, because I can, of course, multitask. Okay? I'm memorizing the steps because there may be a question and answer period. Some of you are like, yeah. I saw it, yeah. It gets worse. I am doing this thing. I actually remember the gesture there's this woman that's sharing. First of all, I have to say, sharing. And you were so obsessed with not drinking. Just da-da-da-da-da, not drink. No, but I didn't drink. And don't drink, don't drink. I'm going, oh. I mean, I'd never been anywhere where anyone was, you probably called it focused. I called it, you are so obsessed with this. Actually, it seems sad to me, but anyway. But this woman just started crying right out there at the meeting. It was horrible. I was so uncomfortable. So I remember going, take a note. Talk to her after the meeting. Surely she can learn to talk about these things and kind of keep it together, because it looks bad. She looks bad. Oh, yeah, first meeting. Oh, it gets worse. Had my new friend Jack, or some of these folks had been at the meeting. Oh, Fred, this gentleman introduced himself as, my name's Jack and I'm an alcoholic. And I've been sober since April the 14th, 1970. And I thought, oh my gosh. Bless his heart, as we say in Texas. Remember, I've already memorized the steps, and I think, you know what? Even if I don't need Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm going to tutor that old boy. I mean, how long can it take to do 12 things? This guy's been here since the 70s. I'm talking, I am as serious as a heart attack. If I could help him catch up so he can move on, we need that seat. We got new people to get in here. Let me tell you something about the magic of Alcoholics Anonymous, because guess what I know is the absolute base of Alcoholics Anonymous? God's love. God's love. It's built on it. It surrounds it. It watches over it. So let me just tell you, can you believe this? The miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. They get to me and I share. Now, I can't share about not drinking because that is not my problem. And trust me, I shared about my problems. And it was horrible for them. They were just like, oh, God. And the minute they said the Lord's Prayer, you know exactly what happened. 2, 3, 5, I don't know. People walked up to me and looked me right in the eye and said, we have a meeting here tomorrow night. Sure hope you'll come. If that's not a testament to Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't know what is. I don't think for a second I'm alcoholic. But I'd have gone anywhere that day just to kind of get it all back together. Let me just get reorganized. You know, things aren't looking good here. And I went back the next night. You know what? And I didn't drink. Of course, I think you've got people out watching somebody like me to make sure we break the rule. I got one of those books. I edited it, first 164 pages. My sponsor, you have to know my sponsor. You know, I've gotten another degree since then, and much to his disdain. And I have to tell you what he said to me one time, because I really want you to hear that that's what I brought to you, the arrogance. But today I'm not nearly as smart as I was. One time I said, I was complaining about how something was written. You know, it's very archaic. And he said, you know what, I just realized, you know, you have a lot of degrees. And I said, well, yes, I do. And he said, I found something just this morning in our house that has a lot of degrees. I thought, what? He said, a rectal thermometer. Do you know what we do with that? So I wanted to just say that to tell you, if I ever start feeling a little as smart as I was, I just have to stay standing. And I I have to relook at who the judge is. Because let me tell you, I went back and I went back and I went back and I went back, and there was something in that room I wanted desperately, and there was something in the room I was scared to death I couldn't have. There was the presence of God was in that room beyond my comprehension. Oh, so far beyond my comprehension. And let me tell you about the day I knew without a shadow of a doubt I was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I went late and I left early. And then I drove home going, I don't even think they care about me. Because I wanted to balance in a chair and let you make me feel better. And you would have had to chase me. And some people did. They'd rush out of the meeting and say, we're going to lunch. We're going to go to coffee after. And I'd go, you know, I'm going out of town. I would love to, but I'm going out of town. Remember how brilliant I am? I can't even think of a new excuse week to week. Going out of town, going out of town, going out of town. And I want you to know that I left the world-famous Bolden group on Bolden Avenue in Austin, Texas, one Saturday at noon. And I want to just go home. I'm not, you know, I'll go to the meetings. I'm not drinking. Isn't that enough? And guess what? If that's all you want, maybe it'll be enough. I suspect the people down here did more than that. But I want you, I'm driving down South Lamar, and maybe you know, you hit 290. It becomes 290, and I'm still driving. I'm acting like you know, in Austin, Texas. I'm in California. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. It's really pretty if you ever want to come. Anyway, I'm driving along, and I can't stop. I need to turn on William Cannon. I can't turn on William Cannon. And I am screaming. Remember how sophisticated I am? I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Who would know? Who would know? And you know who would know, because I'm still driving. And all of a sudden I see a sign, because this is Austin, Texas, and I see a sign that says Dripping Springs, city limits of Dripping Springs, Texas. And I pull over. I get out of my car, and it's still not enough. I look back and I realize that I've got to get back in and pull up so that my back tires are out of town, because I could not lie to you anymore. I said I was going out of town, and I had to go out of town. I can't do it. It's a crazy story, but I knew then, gives me chills to this day, I couldn't lie. I couldn't look you in the eye and lie to you anymore. I wanted to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got to tell you something. For about the first 3.5 years, I didn't give you much to work with. And it's not my sponsor's fault. It's not the literature's fault. It's not the meeting's fault. It's not God's fault. I was willing to do just enough to say, I didn't take a drink. That's what I was willing to do. And then I met Dennis Lamphere. He's gone home way too soon with sobriety. And I remember the time I was at a convention in Brownwood, Texas, and he looked me in the eye, right in the eye. People that stay sober and work this program can look you right in the eye, and they touch your soul. And he said, oh, I just can't wait until you step into your recovery. Now, I had 4 years. I was a little offended. See, I'd been not drinking, but I hadn't found God. I was kind of scared of God still. A little bit nervous about this God that I'd walked away from. And he said, I just can't wait. And I said, well, what are you talking about? And he said, you know what? You don't do anything but not drink. I can't imagine how painful that must be. And I can't wait, my sweet friend, until you step into your own recovery. I got some good news for you. I love to talk about the good news. Because you too, anybody in this room can step into their own recovery at any moment. And it's the good news. And I said, well, what do I need to do? And he began to give me, I think it's called A Design for Living. He asked me, he said, you know what? Maybe you could just read the big book as it is. Let's just see what happens. And you know what? Remember, I introduced myself as a real alcoholic. I have done it since the day he died. I looked him in the eye because you know what? I'm staying without alcohol. I don't think I believed anywhere in here that I was an alcoholic. How do I know? Because when I looked at that literature, he told me to mark what I thought applied to me, and I'm doing this. Oh, John, Sue. Because I found many people in there. And I'll never forget the day I read page 21 for the first time, but what about the real alcoholic? And see, I don't say it to be cute. I don't say it to disrespect anything. I promised that man I'd never forget I'm a real alcoholic. And so have I just been pumped all weekend as you've read a portion of chapter 3? Describe me perfectly, because please help me not forget. So I began to do the things that you should do. I began to participate in my own recovery. And now I want to tell you about how it is today. Because this God is so unbelievable. I called him one day. I have to tell you two times when I called Dennis. One time when I was really, really right, which is never a good idea, by the way. I want to tell this quick story because there are a lot of new people. Older people, don't listen for just a second. Okay. New people, when you're just going along at work or, in your family, and all of a sudden you become really right, that is not the time to call your sponsor. Okay? Because what had happened is I'd been to work that day and somebody had done something really wrong. Okay? I mean, really. And as the seconds began to go by, I became righter in the situation. So I'm driving like a maniac, sober, to get home. And I pick up the phone and I'm dialing it and I'm saying, oh, you will not believe. And I just got to, and he says, my goodness, this sounds really important to you. And I said, I'm talking. And he said, well, I'm going to go get some coffee. And so I said, well, okay, I'll wait. And he went, oh no, you go ahead. I said, but if I go ahead, you won't hear. Oh, okay. Because here's the most important part. If you have somebody in your life that loves you this much today. He said, by the time I get back, we'll get to the exact nature of the wrong. And then we'll move into the solution. Wow. That's what happened to me. So I'm doing this stuff. Man, I'm going to meetings and I'm doing this stuff. And I called him up one day and I said, Dennis, I'm working pretty hard. And it just froze, because maybe it sounded a little whiny. Okay? And he said, yes, you are. Kind of surprised me. I said, I'm just kind of wondering what I'm going to get. I mean, so I can give it to others and give it 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 and give it. All over America, I'll do what, you know. Okay, so I'm not totally well. I'm about 5 years sober. What am I going to get? And you know what he said to me? He said, oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. Because I've got some promises for you. I've got some promises for you. And I went, well, you know, like the ones on page. He went, no. I got some special promises for you. It's got my full attention. And I said, okay, what are you talking about? And let me tell you something. I want to give to every single, if I could look everybody in the eye. I don't care if you've been here 10 minutes or 50 years. He promised me that these promises would come true for me for the rest of my life if I stayed in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I don't know which of these things is going to keep me sober. See, I know now that if we only needed meetings, they wouldn't have written the literature. If we didn't need the literature, they would have only had the meetings. If they didn't want us to have sponsors, I better do it all. I'm so grateful to my sponsor and his sponsor for teaching me that I got to do it all so that I get it all. And here's the promises that this describes how it is today perfectly and how I found God. Who wasn't lost, but this is how I found God. This is how I opened the door to that God had been knocking on my heart all those years before and after sobriety. I don't want to forget that. He said, Nancy, if you won't take that first drink, you'll never be drunk again. I went, that's really profound, Dennis. Now, this won't mean anything to you, but what I really thought was that boy went to Texas Tech. I got to give him some slack. Red and black. I did. I thought, wow, what a statement. Guess what? November the 7th, 1981, if I do what you tell me to do, I'll celebrate 25 years of sobriety. Now think about that. I haven't taken the first drink, so I haven't been drunk. It's one of the most profound promises and the good news in my life today. Are you kidding me? Have I needed to take a drink? I thought so on more than one occasion. Thank you for teaching me that the miracle isn't that I don't think about drinking. The miracle is that when I think about drinking, I haven't had the first drink. Thank you, because that promise is still coming true for me today. He promised me if I went to meetings, and he said, somebody like you, a lot of them, you are going to meet people whose insides feel the same way your outsides feel. Think about that. Are you kidding me? I couldn't believe I'd looked forever for somebody who I could you just understand how I'm feeling today? I don't have to describe terror in this room or fear for no apparent reason. I don't have to. I will not be the same after being here this weekend. I will not be the same. I can't be the same. Are you kidding me? I have met new friends and smiles, and you've opened your hearts to me. The God in you has enveloped me in a way that I cannot describe. So I can't be the same. That's a promise I will give to you and continues to come true in my life. It describes my life today perfectly. He promised me that if I'd study the literature, he loved to say, what do you do with a textbook, professor? And I'd say, well, I'm going to go home right now because I got to start studying. You will not know. Let me tell you something. I'm not even going to tell you. Maybe I'll meet you here next year and you can tell me. You will not believe the incredible thing that will happen if you open your home so that you can have people there to study the literature. I was telling Amy about it. Well, just people coming in and we slept everywhere and we cooked, but we study the big book. Or we study those steps and we turn them inside out and we don't change them. We don't change the literature. We don't scream back out at the literature. We do it just the way it was passed down to us. Exactly. And I want to keep it clean because it was given to me clean. And I study it, and it is a privilege to have somebody in my home sitting there on that big old couch. The greatest thing I've ever given anybody I sponsor is I brought my sponsor and I sat her on the couch in my room for a weekend. And I told my sponsors, just listen to the people who've come before us. And I study the literature today. It's a privilege to me. Remember, I was busy editing it. Today, I like it just the way it is. I keep it just the way it is. Here's another promise. He promised me that if this will blow your socks off. He promised me that if I would work with a sponsor and work the steps, work with a sponsor, work the steps, I could become anybody I wanted to be. Do you remember who's not locking the door at night and doesn't like who's home? I wanted to, and I brought that into Alcoholics Anonymous. I wanted to like me better. I wanted to love me enough to do good things and to make good decisions, but I was incapable of doing so. And this man is promising me that if I work the steps with him, I can become anybody I want to be. Well, guess what? I am living proof of that. I'm not the person that I brought to you in 1981. And we're not even close to being done. But how could that not be true? Jack Claytor made a comment one time that just changed my heart. He said, the steps well worked will walk you into the arms of God. Well worked. And I began to realize that you never left me on the first step about anything. When I came in and I said, I give, I put those car tires across that city limit sign. And I said, I'm done. I'm powerless. You said, come on in, because we got 11 other principles that are going to change who you are. And in the second step, I built a fellowship. Remember that the point's always up with God, and there's two other corners. It's sometimes me and my sponsor. This morning, it's me and you, because God's always at the top. And in the fourth through the ninth step, you gave me a chance to take out all that trash that I'd been gathering from my whole life. And you said, just take care of your trash. Just put your trash in that bag. And you said, take the trash to the curb. And that's scary sometime in it. What if I need that trash tomorrow? I might need one more look at it. It takes a lot of courage to take that trash, doesn't it? You're giving it to God and another human being. And the people that really love you in this problem won't take your trash to the curb. They'll help you take it to the curb. Well, guess what? Sixth and seventh step. I live in Denton, Texas. I've never had the trash man knock on my door when I take out my trash on Tuesdays. I've never had that trash man. They say, oh, girl, that is some trashy trash on the curb. That's just over the top. Sorry, I'm not taking it. You're going to have to call Dallas. You think that's funny, though, but you know that trash that you've had in your soul. You know that trash you've had in your heart that you thought, man, this trash, nobody wants this trash. And God has never knocked on the door of my heart and said, man, some trashy trash, and I'm not taking it. I get on my knees and I humbly ask, and it is gone. The trash is picked up. So my job is to act as though it's gone. Can you believe that? And then all I had to do is say, okay, who do you think with my sponsor? Who do you think that I got to go clean this stuff with? Because you've got my attention now. It's a lot easier to go and take responsibility for my behavior when I'm not carrying my trash. And to look in somebody's eyes. To literally look into somebody's eyes and say I was wrong. And feel the relief of truth and me being in the room at the same time. So I did that. So, and then 10, 11, and 12 just give you an opportunity to take that snapshot every day. You get to do it again, do it again, do it again. So am I surprised that promise is still coming true? I'm working the steps so that I can walk into the arms of God. I continue to work the steps so I'm becoming the person that I always wanted to be and who God made me to be in the first place. And one of the last promises, two more promises, he said, I promise you that God will always be big enough. I'm like, whoa, always be big enough. Now think about that. In every situation, I have to tell you quickly. My parents, remember those people I treated horribly? My father got really ill, and I got really scared. And all of a sudden, I went to my sponsors, and I said, I don't know what to do. And he said, why don't you touch that man and tell him you love him? Just like people do to you all over this country without asking you what you did. I've never walked into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous and you stop me at the door. You just put your arms around me. And I looked at my daddy in the eyes that day and I said, I love you, Daddy. Said, in a long sentence, I have to be honest, but I said, I love you, Dad, and I got to go. I was scared, and I went there, guess what? And he said, do it again tomorrow, do it again tomorrow, do it again tomorrow. And every day between that day and May, and on December the 25th at 4 o'clock, 1988, my daddy went home. But guess what the last words we ever spoke? I love you more than you will ever know. See, because of people like you and God being big enough, I don't know how to do that, by the way. I don't know how to be that person who thinks of you more than me. And because of that day, I realized that I forgot to remember all those things I had cried about and complained about my whole life. Guess what? So my dad died. And so I said to my sponsor, I'm just so sad. I miss my dad. And they said, well, maybe we need to do this with your mom. Do this with your mom every day. And of course, I'm not well. So I say, well, she's not sick. Okay. But the truth is I went, you know what? I got to do this. And my mother was like hugging this podium. I forgot to look at my watch, so I'm going to go fast. Okay, here we go. She's saying, she was like hugging this podium. But guess what? It's a program of action. It's not a spectator sport. And God is big enough. So guess what? I did every day. And I remember when she assumed hug position for the very first time. And she let me put her arms around her. And guess what? For 12 years, I did that with my mother. I forgot to complain. And in May of 2000, I get a call saying, I can't live alone. The doctor tells me it's getting bad. I can't live alone. And I thought, oh my gosh, what an honor. Are you kidding me? What an honor. See, I didn't say, oh, well, that's what good daughters do. I said, are you kidding me? I got the call. I'm clean and sober. We have a clean and sober home. And we could say, oh, Mom, I'd be so honored. And every single day, somebody like me. Do you remember what I brought to you? Somebody like me washed her little hands. I remember asking her if I could just put warm water and soap and wash her little hands and paint her fingernails. And inside I'm going, oh, please say no, please say no. And she said, oh, that would be so nice. And I said, oh, maybe clear? She went, no, pink. I went, oh, I had to light them up just to say, I'm like, okay. She's shaking, I'm shaking. What does it have to do with sobriety? What does it have to do with finding a God that's so big that nothing could get by? It has everything to do with my sobriety. Because one day at a time, I painted her little nails. Now, that was on a Sunday afternoon, and I could not have known that on Tuesday she was going to go home. But you know what I did know? I knew that every time I was in her presence, I took you with me. And on the day she died, on November the 21st, year 2000, on that day, I want you to know what I did. I knelt before her. I'm a self-centered alcoholic whose only solution was to take one more drink and point the finger at you. And I looked up at her and I said, I don't know if I've told you today how honored I am that you are my mama. And I couldn't have known that when I walked out of that hospital room that 5 hours later, she went home. She went home. And I had no unfinished business. If that was all I had to thank you for, it would be, I'm overpaid and overblessed. Are you kidding me? See, God's big enough because I don't know how to do those things for my mama. That's just one of many amends that you helped me make. And here's the last promise, that if I could look every one of you in the eye, I'd love to be able to do that. He promised me that if I would just give away a little bit, and that's about what I do, just give away a little bit. Give it the way it was given to you. You will get back tenfold. And all you have to do right now is look around, and you'll know that's the truth. Thanks for letting me be with you.